Hello Wranglers, hope you all had a nice break, but now it is time to get back into the swing of things. We need to get back on track and start the second semester right. Now when we left last time, what we were working on some equations. And we had some simple ones, we had some difficult ones. Well today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to solve equations when you have a variable on one side of the equation and you have another variable on the other side. And when we do this, it's a little more difficult, but not too bad. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at the first problem. If we take a look here on the first problem here, number 1, what we got here is this. It's 5x plus 6 equals 2x plus 15. Now if we look at this problem right here, we can see that we have a variable here and a variable here, okay, on both sides of the equation. So it's going to take a couple different steps to do this problem. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that if you have any minus signs, I recommend at least to change them. But we don't have any minus signs here, so there's nothing to change. So what I'm going to do next is this. I find it very nice and very helpful to draw what some teachers call a wall. I just call it a line. So we're going to draw a line dividing the two equations into two parts. The left side and the right side. And what we want to do is we want to get our variables on the same side of the equation. Okay? So we want to do two things. One, we could take this 5x and move it to this side. Or we could take the 2x and move it to this side. It doesn't matter. Either one will give us the same answer. But why not make it easier? So what I like to do is I look for the smaller x. Okay? What's smaller, 5x or 2x? 2x. So how am I going to get rid of this 2x on the right side of the equation and move it to the left side? By adding the opposite. What is the opposite of a positive 2x? Negative 2x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add negative 2x here and negative 2x here. Notice, when I brought it to the other side of the equation, I lined the x's up because you can only add like terms, okay? So that's why we're able to bring this over here and line the x's up. Now, if we think about it, 2 minus 2 is what? 0. So we can cancel that out. Those are gone, okay? Because 0 plus 15 is just 15, and that's all going to equal. Now, what's 5 minus 2? 3. So I'm going to take a 3. Don't forget the x comes with this problem. And that's all going to be plus 6. You see how we didn't use the plus 6 set yet, so we bring it down. Now at this point, we got 3x plus 6 equal 15. We got just a regular two-stepper now. Should be simple to solve. But remember, it's been a while. But remember, what number is being added to x? Okay, that's the question you ask yourself. And the number being added to x is not 3, because the 3 and the x, there's no plus sign in between there. Those are being multiplied. What's being added to x is the 6. And so how do we get rid of the 6? We ask, what is the opposite of positive 6? Well, the opposite of positive 6, negative 6. So we're going to go ahead and add negative 6 to both sides. Now when we do this, 6 minus 6, 0, so they cancel out, leaving us with 3x is equal to, and here we got 15 minus 6. 15 minus 6, hopefully we know is 9. So there we go. Now, so we got 3x equals 9. What am I going to do next? Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of whatever's being multiplied to x. Now remember, we have to know the inverse operation of multiplication. Remember, the inverse operation is the opposite operation. So what is the opposite operation of multiplication? Division. So what I'm going to do here is now I'm going to divide both sides by the number that is right next to the x. See, the number right next to the x is the 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 down here and a 3 down here. Now 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1 times x is x. So those 3's actually cancel out, leaving us with x is equal to 9 divided by 3 is 3. And right there, folks, that's our answer. X equals 3. Okay? Now, if you look, you may say, okay, that was pretty simple. And what this problem up here in the original problem, what it didn't have was any negative signs, okay? So we got away pretty easy on number 1. But now what happens if our problem is full of negative numbers, okay? Let's take a look at this problem right here. Here we go. Watch now. I need like an assistant right here to erase this board for me. All right. So everyone, we're going to take a look at number 12 on your papers there. Okay, number 12. And what we got here is this. We got negative 9x minus 21 equal 35 minus x. Now, see, this problem's a little more difficult because A, you got all kinds of negatives and minus signs and whatnot, all right? And secondly, it looks a little different because this x is just chilling by itself. There's no number in front of it. So we got to put a number there if we can. So what we need to do is this. Our first step that we should do is we should see if there's any signs we can change, okay? That should be step 1. So I'm looking for any minus signs. Now remember, some folks still believe this is the minus sign. It's not. It's a negative sign. So it's negative 9x. Now this is a minus sign, minus 21. So let's change them. So I'm going to change the minus to a plus. And the positive 21 will become negative 21. Okay? Next, let's keep looking. Nope, that's positive 35. Oy, there's a minus x. We're going to change it. We're going to change this to a plus and make this negative. Now, I don't like negative x. To me, it's missing something. Okay? What number can I put in front of the x? Oh, 1. You can always put a 1 in front of any variable. It will not change the value. So I'm going to put a 1 in front of the x like so. Now, what I'm going to do next is exactly what we did on the other problem. We are going to get our variables on the same exact side. We got a negative 9x here. We got a negative 1x here. We got to get them on the same side. We got to bring them together. But what one do you want to get rid of? Do you want to get rid of the negative 1x? Or do you want to get rid of the negative 9x? Does it matter? Not really. But one that you get rid of will make it easier to do the problem. Remember what I said. Get rid of the smaller one. Now what's smaller? Negative 9 or negative 1? Some of y'all probably thought negative 1, but it's not. Negative 9 is smaller. Okay? And because negative 9 is smaller, let's get rid of that one. What is the opposite of negative 9? Positive 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 9x here. And remember, I'm going to draw the wall because I forgot. I'm going to add 9x to the other side of the equation. But the question is, where am I going to put the 9x? Under the 35 or under the negative 1x? You want to put it under the negative 1x because you want your x's to line up. So I'm going to put a 9x right there like so. All right. Now let's start solving. If we look, negative 9 plus 9, 0. So guess what? Those will cancel out. Leaving us with negative 21 is equal to. Now right here, I'm going to take this 35. We didn't do anything to them. Bring them down. 35 plus. Now here we got a negative 1x plus 9x. Question is, are we supposed to add those numbers or are we supposed to subtract them? Now remember, I made a chart for y'all a while ago. I left it right up here in case y'all didn't see it. But if we look, here we have a negative plus a positive. So those signs are different. And when you're adding and the signs are different, you need to subtract those numbers. So what's 9 minus 1? 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 8x here. Now the question is it a positive 8 or a negative 8? Remember how we tell? We look and say, what's bigger? And just don't look at the signs, just look at the number. What's bigger, a 1 or a 9? A 9 is bigger, and that's positive. Therefore, our answer will be positive. So that's going to be a positive 8x. Now what next? Remember what we got to do next now is we have to get rid of what's being added to x. And what's being added to x? Right here is 35. So we got to get rid of this positive 35. And how do we get rid of it? with adding the opposite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add negative 35. You see, 35 minus 35, 0. And that's going to get rid of it. Then we got to add it to this side of the equation as well. Now, these two problems here, do I add these numbers or do I subtract? That's the question. Well, we got two signs that are the same. And don't forget, when signs are the same, what do? You add the numbers and then keep the sign of the bigger number. So we're going to add these because the signs are the same. So here we go. Look now. 1 plus 5, 6. 2 plus 3, 5. See, it's not that hard. And the bigger number is 35, and that's negative, so this is going to stay negative like so. And then what we do, we're going to bring down that equal sign. 35 minus 35, we said already, 0. So we're going to cancel that out, it's gone. And then we're going to take this 8x and we're going to bring it down right here as well. Now, what are we going to do next? Well, what we do next, we got to get rid of this 8 that's being multiplied to the x. How are we going to get rid of an 8 being multiplied to x? Using the inverse operation. And the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Look at that. Now, 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times x is x, so those 8's technically cancel out, leaving me x is equal to. Now, we got 56 divided by 8. What is 56 divided by 8? 7. So we got 7. But remember the question now, is it positive or is it negative? Well, if we look, these two signs right here are different. Because these signs are different and we're dividing, see that's dividing rules, our answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to put a negative right here and look at that right there. That's our answer, just like that. Negative 7 equals x. Beautiful. Now, as you look down your worksheet, you may find a problem that looks a little different. Okay? You may say, wait a minute. He taught us these two, I get that. But what about number 14? Look at that one. That's a different one. Looks like a toughie. Well, let me show you what you do. Everyone take a look at this one now. Number 14, here we go. Here we go, 14, look at this now. 36 plus 15x, all gonna equal 17x. Look at that, okay? Now this problem is supposed to be easier, but a lot of people find difficulty in this problem because they mess up and get rid of the wrong x. Now in the previous two problems, I told you guys you can get rid of any x you want. Any variable on either side you can get rid of. This one not so much, okay? If you get rid, I mean technically you can get rid of either one, but there's a much easier one to get rid of, okay? Now if we look here, if we get rid of this 17x, okay, and we add negative 17x to this side, what's going to happen over here? Nothing. There is going to be nothing left on this side of the equation. And if you don't see what I'm talking about, let's draw the line. Okay, if you get rid of the 17, it's going to be blank. Okay, that's going to be 0. You're adding more work for yourself. Don't do that. What you want to do is you want to get rid of the variable that has a friend. You see, 15x has a friend in 36. Look at that. They're happy, right? Playing outside, having good times, playing one-on-one basketball. It's nice. But we want to get rid of the variable that has a friend. Okay, if you get rid of this one, there's nothing left. We don't want that. Always want to get rid of the variable that has a friend. So here we go, 15x. We're going to get rid of that one. So how do we get rid of a positive 15x? Negative 15x. Now notice there were no signs to change, okay? So we didn't change any signs. But we're going to go ahead and get rid of the 15x with a negative 15x. You see that? Do it to this side and do it to this side. See, you always do the same thing to both sides of the equation. Now let's take a look, see what happens now. 15 minus 15, 0, and that's what we want. Those cancel out. So we still have 36, and that's all going to equal. Now take a look. 17 minus 15. Those signs are different. You're going to subtract. 17 minus 15 is 2. Don't forget the x, okay? 17 is bigger than positive, so that's going to stay positive. And what you're going to do next? Well, now you have to get rid of what's being multiplied to x, right? That inverse operation business we keep talking about. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So what we're going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by the number that is right next to the x. And the number right next to the x is 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 and divide by 2. Now, 36 divided by 2, okay? If you're doing that math, 36 divided by 2, 2, 4, all kind of different ways to do it, but it's 18. So I'm going to get an 18 here, and that's all going to equal 2 divided by 2 is 1. So those cancel. And we get an x right here. And so we get 18 is equal to x. Okay? And that right there is our answer, and that's it. Okay? That is how you solve variables with, or equations with variables on both sides. And this is part 1. Okay? Next time we're going to do some part 2. Now the part 2 is going to have some parentheses in here. Going to have to do some distribute. But it's okay. It's not that hard. We'll go step by step to make sure we understand this. All right. Well, I hope this video made just a little bit of sense. And enjoy that worksheet. It's a nice one. That riddle is funny. All right. Have a good day.